in June, actually starting in May, they start saying, get your stuff ready, right? Mm-hmm. So how many people do you think go out and buy water at that time? Everybody I know doesn't. But that's when you should be buying it. Mm-hmm. How many people have coolers or get coolers? Then not many. What happened to the plywood that you had last year? What happened to the generators you had last year?
It's too difficult to store all that stuff.
We used the shutters that we used in 2004.
Yeah, so
last year and this year, yeah.
Before the storm, they had on the TV people in the store. I think it was either a Home Depot or a Lowe's, and they were like beside themselves because the place was out of water. Mm. They're standing in front of drink coolers and coolers. Why not buy one of those and fill it up with free water and keep it at your house?
I know. I filled a lot of bottles with tap water, and that's what we were drinking most of the time last week.
If you don't have that, fill up some bowls or do something. But to say, oh, the stores are out of water, I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. You don't need bottled water from a store if you buy a cooler and fill up. You get a 120-quart cooler, that's 120 quarts of water that you're going to have.
Yeah, we froze them a lot of, like any of our empty bottles we had, we froze everything, and we put them in the freezer. So guess what happened? They froze. That was our cold water for the week. That was what we drank. So that when we didn't have ice, we still had cold water we were pulling out of the freezer. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to think straight.
Yeah, how many millions of bottles of 2-quart sodas leave the shelf of all the grocery stores in Florida? I don't have a container. Well, take your soda bottle and fill it up and freeze it. Oh, leave about 2 inches from the top because ice is quicker than water.
Right. Yeah, what you said about the cell and all that being out. Mm-hmm. I have 2 small ham radios, and they cost me, believe this or not, $35 each, and they're full ham radios. And I spent, I think, another $14 for an extended antenna. And if you, I'm not saying for people to go do this, but it does have the family network on it. It does have regular walkie-talkies. Mm-hmm. And in an emergency, you can always use a ham radio if you need help.
I saw that posted a number of times because there was an app, and I know I had not experienced it, but I did post about it. I did download it. We played on it before the storm, but after the storm, I couldn't use it. That was one of the apps was Zello. But you have to have Wi-Fi. You don't have to have cell towers, but you have to have Wi-Fi. Well, once we lost Wi-Fi, we couldn't use it. So that's where the ham radio would really come in handy. And I know that when I reached out to a lot of my Facebook friends and asked them what some of their challenges were, the majority of them said was the lack of cell phone service and no landline and no internet. In other words, they had no communication. And that's where we need to make sure we all have a radio. We have one that runs on batteries, and then there's the weather radios and the emergency radios. These are things we have to have so that we can at least know what's happening out there.
Right. And, there's so many people that don't. There are young people that have never seen a small handheld AM/FM radio.
Yeah, you're right.
Serious.
You're
right. Most of the kids don't know what AM band is, period.
No. I have 2 different ones, and in my one van, it has the weather bands on the radio. Mm-hmm. Because you have to know what the weather is. But the big thing is you have to continue to prepare, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it's for the storm. If you're not preparing, then you are going to have consequences. And even if you are preparing, there's going to be consequences. Exactly. But you're going to mitigate some of that and make it a little bit easier on yourself. But I keep going back to if the state was in the condition that the Keys are in right now, the people that are listening, what would you be doing? Think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My brother lives down in Cudjoe Key. He lost everything.
Everything.
I mean, everything.
Yeah, he evacuated. He was actually north of us with his son and his daughter up in the Daytona area, and he stopped by our house, and we gave him our empty gas cans that we didn't need, because we didn't evacuate, just so he could fill gas, get in his car, and get down there to see what was there. And he got stopped in Key Largo. This was like 2 days after, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. And they were not letting them in because they had to inspect all those bridges, and especially the, Cudjoe Key is on the northwest side of the 7 Mile Bridge, so he couldn't even. That's I don't know how long that took to inspect and everything. But there were, I guess, some definitely washed out roads and such. When he got there, his business is gone. I mean,
it's gone.
He just retired to run this business, and he lost every single orange tree. His bees are gone. He was, making, Richard knows more about this, the orange honey or something.
Orange honey, and he had a label for it, which was a Key West orange honey.
That's him. I saw that. I saw that when I was down there during the summer.
Yeah, and on that, it's gone. 150 orange trees gone, and the bees gone. And because you just can't bring a bee in and say,
no,
okay,
you can't
bee, pollinate. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work like that. So I think we should talk a little bit about what the lessons learned are.
Definitely.
And when it comes to preparation and what have you, and business.
Richard?
Let's start with business preparation, and I want to go at this from not just a small business entrepreneurs. I want to go a traditional business where you're an employee in a business and you have everything to do. How are you going to preserve your job? Because it's going to be the same thing that needs to be done for an entrepreneur or a corporate executive. What are you going to do to prepare and be ready after the storm comes?
That's really good, Richard.
Did you back up everything? Well, I don't do the backup. We have a corporate IT department. Well, who's going to go down and ask the corporate IT person to go, did you get everything backed up?
But it's not only that, Richard. Think about this. The Space Center, my wife works out at the Space Center, and it was closed for over a week. If the storm would have come in just a little bit different, the Space Center might not be there.
Right.
Totally.
Or your job, like your family member's job is gone. What are you going to do?
Well, my sister's in Naples, and she's a comptroller for a large landscaping farm there. They just came out of the fire season where they lost about 40% of their crops. This hurricane took 80% of their crops. So they had
after the other side.
Yeah, after the
fires
and now the hurricanes, they had to lay off everybody on the farm. Only kept the 4 essential people there. Their servers were fried because something about when they didn't know, somebody turned them on and plugged them in with the generators. And it fried the servers. So they weren't prepared that way. My sister was not there at the time. She was livid. I'll just say that. So then they had to take some of their clippings that they had and send them north to another farm to start planting, so they would start having some crops that they can sell for the season. They're the farm that supplies like Home Depot and Walmart, Rockledge Gardens, those type of places that they have no products now for them. So it's an impact. What happens is it not only impacts one business, it's a chain reaction.
It's a chain reaction.
And these people, they did allow some of the farmers or the crew that picked the crops and such, if they wanted to come in and help clean up, they were paying them to do that. But they didn't know when they could actually physically employ them again until they get everything up and running. So this is what the impact of all of these disasters, how, it affects everybody.
You just take that one little farm. Well, it's not really a little farm, but you take the one farm in Naples out there and it employs 40, 50, 60 people. Now, what's the economic impact of 40 or 60 people not being able to make their wage?
Huge down there.
I mean,
that's just one of them.
Huge down there. I know that area.
Not just on where they're going to live, but the 7-Eleven where they buy gas, the grocery store, and all the other services where this money trickles up to.
And I think one of the biggest lessons when my sister shared that with me about their server is that there has to be some type of a procedure, a process in place for business. That's a big lesson I think a lot of us have learned. Even us, Richard and I as a small business, and you as a small business, we have to have other means of income, maybe even outside our own area, if possible.
Yeah. And it's not you hit something really big. You have to have a process,
Yeah.
and it's not just to prepare for the storm. It's to prepare for the aftermath of the
Yes,
storm.
yes.
You can't just prepare for the storm to come. You have to be ready for what's coming afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really intense because people go, well, okay, afterwards I'm go down and make sure my bank's okay. I got my money in there. Then I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to put this, and I got all these big strategies where I can step over all these people. Well, what do you think those people that survived
Exactly.
had? You know, the whole thing. So it's
And banks weren't even open for 4 days, 3-4 days almost.
Exactly, because they didn't have power, you know, on this whole thing. So you have to get in and really look at it from a microscopic level. You gotta. It's not just boiling it down to the least common denominator. I mean, you just got to keep going until you get to the root of wherever you are, and then start rebuilding it up.
And that's what I try to express to people about being prepared. You can never be prepared enough for what could be coming.
Exactly. And, and that's how you learn how to adapt better is if you are aware of what you need to have in place for that aftermath. You have to, like you say, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's, I know with us, the only way to get anything in our county, which I know is the same way across all of the areas, you had to have cash to purchase anything.
Yep.
And how many, and I know it's tough. First part of the month, we were all paying our first month of bills. It was difficult for so many people. And that's another thing we have to really step back and think, how can I help my business grow more efficiently and be able to be more prepared that way? Because I am a worrywart sometimes. You know me, Jeff.
Yeah, well, just think what would happen if your business was, and I know that part of it does, but runs out of your house and you have no power. Mm-hmm. How are you going to keep on running your house?
Just say
you're running it out of this studio here and there's no power.
Yeah.
What do?
Yeah. We're all basically internet based. I mean, I have clients, physical clients, but I couldn't communicate with them. And I started getting some privately messages on my Facebook file when I could get some Wi-Fi in certain areas that, are you okay? Are you okay? And we were doing the same with other people. Haven't heard from you. Are you okay? I mean, but again, you just take a deep breath. And one of the things I shared again, to Richard, I've talked about it last week when I was on that survival mode, I was productive. I just took, my once I knew I had to throw all the food away, we took everything out of that fridge, the freezer, we scrubbed it down. We were very blessed. We have a gas water heater. So I had hot water, so I was able to scrub all that out. We got all our, patio cleaned off, the patio furniture back out. I just was not going to believe any other hurricanes are going to come my way right now. I'm just not going to visualize that. So I was just wanted out of my house so I wouldn't trip over it at night when we had no lights, But what I have found this week, the exhaustion has really set in. I am really having a hard time focusing this week.
Yeah, same here. It's very exhausting, worrying about different things, your house and your power and, your business and all that. It takes a toll on you. And not just exhaustion, it takes a mental toll on you.
I mean, 100% on that. It does. And it's not something that goes away as fast as it attacks us. This malaise lingers on for weeks, sometimes months afterwards, where you just have that unsureness, that cloud that's running through your mind that's there.
The tarp on your house that's going to be there for 6 to 8 months. Yeah, it's a good reminder.
Yeah, we had a tarp for 2 years after the 04 hurricanes.
Yeah, it's
because
like, holy smokes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, someone really mentioned it when I asked out there and kind of, again, on social media, what was your biggest impact on you professionally and personally? And so many people said hurricane brain or brain fog or not having your mojo and wanting your mojo back. And I totally understood that because it's foggy. It's just,
Yeah, see, I thought about that question after I answered that again, and I've been thinking about it, and I didn't think about the business at all. I thought about myself and my wife.
Yeah, that's what you said on there.
Surviving. That's it. I mean, those come first, and that's unfortunately the way that some of us have to be, because otherwise you don't survive.
And family, God and family comes first anyway, and your business will be there. It may have to start over. Richard and I have been really starting to really sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do different over this last quarter of the year to make sure that we can, grow our business?